the restaurant fireplace.
Okay, it's just turned 6:30. Call the meeting to order. Discuss possible need for an executive session. We have two on here. Do we have any more? Okay. Do we need to amend the agenda other than I have a liquor license to add? And I have an order to add that we need to have a discussion about. Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Select board minutes of May 7th. Everybody had a chance to look at them.
They look good. Move to accept.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? I did the motion. Aye. Liquor board minutes of May 7th. Everybody good with them? Don't know. I don't believe it. Town managers report.
I attended a meeting with the Vermont Covered Bridge Society's Beth Brown and Liz Alvarado to see how we can incorporate Covered Bridge Week with Pittsburgh Day on August 2nd. We have a few ideas and Beth Brown's gonna get back to us on her availability and timing for that day. She would like to be at Pittsburgh Day at the rec area and at one of the covered bridges that day, kind of spread it out between the two. I attended the Chittenden Reservoir Emergency Action Plan meeting where the siren testing that occurred May 13th was discussed. And then Alicia and I talked and we're switching the who's contacted first, second, third, because she was contacted first and she's like, I'd be the least likely to know exactly what's happening. So we made that switch. I worked with Ann Pelkey to finalize and advertise for the Memorial Day Parade, which is Monday. Kickoff is at the Village Green, 12:30, down to the firehouse where they'll have a ceremony afterwards. And this year, instead of just Otter Valley Band, it's RNESU Super Band. It includes like elementary school kids and high school kids. I worked on a new advertisement and job description for the bookkeeping position, as this position is open again. I met with Rick Conway and Kevin Blow before the planning commission hearing for the enhanced energy plan to make sure everything was set and gave them copies of everything. Otter Valley students came to the rec on Friday, May 16th and helped Liz get the rec ready for the summer. And a big thank you to the students for their help. I believe they painted picnic tables and did a few other odd things around there. And the last few days I've met with several landowners about Fire Hill, which is on the agenda tonight. Regional Planning Commission Board of Commissioners meeting last night. They announced that Jeremy Gildren is leaving at the end of May from RRPC. I have talked to Hunter Excavating about Kendall Hill Road damage. They will be repairing it. They're in communication with Wilkes to make sure what we want done will be done properly. I had a really nice conversation with a gentleman from Hunter Excavating, and I have an email verifying the conversation and that they will be taking care of it. And I had a Zoom meeting with a new camera and security company about options for this building. And possibly the bridges, because I still haven't heard back from T-Mobile from my request for more information from before I went on vacation 3 weeks ago or so. These people do several different towns in Vermont and all over the country. So it was interesting to hear their feedback. They want to send a trial camera for us to test to see if we like it and see if it'll work here before we agree to it. So I'll be filling out the paperwork. I had questions before I would agree to a free camera being sent because I wanted to know all of the fine details and all of the fine print before I would agree to let somebody ship something to me. So I went back and forth with them the last couple of days. I'll be filling out the paperwork to get a 30-day trial. And there's 3 different places in town. I'd like to try it and see if it works for us and our needs. That's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Any questions? Oh, select board remarks. Do we have anything? Public comment? Oh,
I've had a couple calls, is this the place for it, about the trucks on Whipple Hollow. They're telling me that there are still, or are now, a bunch of trucks taking Whipple Hollow from Omea. So we might need to discuss that and talk to Mike about that.
Yeah, probably Ann, bring that up to him, I guess, make sure.
I'll have, I think I'll have some information for you in executive about some of that stuff too.
Okay.
And, I had a call about a near miss at Kamuta's Corner. I tried to think back, when David was here, wasn't there talk or decisions made about putting lights there?
They're one of those crosswalk things.
The crosswalk
the
thing,
crosswalk.
we're in the middle of the
It's in-
permit process for
yeah.
that.
That's still ongoing.
It's
Yeah.
still ongoing. I've still been working on it.
Can you check on that?
I have, in the last 2 days, I've checked on it. I'm waiting for a response.
Yeah.
Right.
Public comment. Okay, there is no old business. New business, Rutland Regional Planning Commission, 2026 plan, yours.
First off, I want to thank the board for making time for me to come and speak tonight. I recognize you guys are busy, so first off, just want to say thank you. I have a handout that I was going to hand out just to kind of guide this conversation.
Can you tell us your name, please?
Oh, yeah, thank you. My name's Logan Solomon. I'm a planner with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. I think I should have enough copies for the whole board. This handout is also available on our website, rutlandrpc.org/plan 2026. As well as the maps that we'll be kind of talking about tonight.
I don't know. Okay, you guys-
Do you want to put one at Alicia's
Yeah,
spot?
put one there.
Let's see. The one extra copy if anyone in the public would like. And then I also, in prep for this meeting, we had also sent some prep materials.
You've had it twice.
Great, perfect. And I have a few extra copies in case anyone wants any of these prep materials, just let me know. Yeah, so we'll be using this kind of slide handout. I just gave kind of guide this conversation. The RRPC, if we're looking at the front page of this handout, you'll see that it says that there have been 3 phases of the regional, our public engagement relating to the regional plan. And so we've been doing public engagement on the 2026 regional plan, dating back a year and a half. And this is kind of the third and final phase, and I'll be talking tonight about kind of the regional plan at large, and then also a specific piece called the future land use map, which is something that's been around since our first regional plan, which was in 1971 or 1972. But with changes in state law, this map kind of has new implications. And so there'll be a focus on that map and kind of specifically, what does it mean for Pittsburgh? And so we'll be talking about the map kind of region wide, but also there'll be a focus on Pittsburgh. On the front page of this handout, you also see that there are kind of 2 questions that are kind of guiding our phase 3 of public engagement, which is, does the plan reflect the right community economic development priorities for the region? And in a moment, I'll explain exactly what is community economic development. And do these priorities make the region a place you want to live, work, and play? When you look at the next page on this handout, it's just an overview. And so I'm briefly going to talk about what is the purpose of the regional plan and the kind of design of it. Why is it important? I'll briefly go over the chapters of the regional plan, or the so-called elements of the regional plan. And then we'll kind of start focusing on this regional future land use map, and specifically zooming in on Pittsburgh. And then I'll kind of close out with some kind of broader public engagement opportunities for phase 3 of our public engagement for this regional plan, which is kind of the last phase of our public engagement. If you look over on the next page of this slide handout, which relates to the purpose and design of the regional plan, I want to call out that in the next couple slides, you'll see in the top right corner applicable Vermont statutes. And this is to say that the purpose of the regional plan and their essentially specific requirements that this regional plan has to adhere to. It's a plan that our organization, our board approves the plan, and then in addition, a state board has to review the plan to make sure it's essentially checking off all the boxes relating to state statute and meeting all these state laws and all these requirements. The regional plan is something that's been around since I mentioned 1971, 72, and it's something that's updated in cycles. And so our currently adopted regional plan was adopted in mid-2018 and is currently in effect till mid-2026. And so this plan is the time horizon, the timeline. The time horizon, yeah, is from mid-2026 to mid-2034. And really the purpose of this plan is around community economic development, which what that means is balancing economic development with social, cultural, and environmental priorities. The plan also is about kind of shaping a pattern, design, or function to meet future needs. And the land use chapter and the plan in general is kind of trying to understand where to grow and where to conserve. I did mention that this plan is influenced by state law, but it's also influenced by our values as an organization. So we strive to be flexible to meet the unique needs of the 27 different municipalities in the region. Pittsford is a town that has zoning regulations, but 1 in 4 towns in the Rutland region do not have zoning regulations. And so this is to say that there's kind of a broad spectrum of land use planning values and kind of the like what is the role of the town in land use and in guiding growth. And so we want our plan to be flexible for towns with varying land use values and various really various land use values and whether they have these regulations or they don't. We want this plan to be all encompassing for all 27 towns. We also want the plan to be locally led, which is why we've done these 3 phases of public engagement dating back a year and a half. And some examples of that was in phase 1, we did a survey where we got 1,200 or 1,300 responses from residents across the region. And we also did events like pop-ups and things like that. And really our intent was, it's good for the sake of just having public input. That's just a good thing. But also by getting public input, it increases the probability of success and ensuring that no community is favored over others. And so we've really tried to, our intention's really been trying to hear from all 27 municipalities across the region. There's also values of equity and sustainability that show up in the plan. And we also want the plan to be outcome driven. And really what we mean by that is that we want to actually have a way of being able to measure whether we're making progress on our goals or not, but setting ourselves up to actually measure, are we making progress towards these goals or not? Go to the next slide of this handout. It's essentially a graphic of all the chapters of the regional plan. So examples of chapters of the regional plan are things like economic development, natural resources, transportation, housing, the working landscape, and the working landscape is agriculture and forestry. You'll see that all of these kind of chapters connect with the land use chapter. And this is really to say that the land use chapter is kind of how we're going to fit all the pieces together, if you will. And it's kind of at the nexus of all these chapters. And you'll also see that there's specific statutes that essentially say what is required to be in each one of these chapters. And similar to the Pittsford Town Plan, like some of these requirements are the same type of requirements, but in other cases, they're pretty different requirements. So there is some overlap in what we're required to do in our plan and what is required for the town plan, but there's also definitely some differences. I'm now gonna, go to the next slide. I'm now going to transition from talking about the regional plan at large to this future land use map. I had mentioned that we've had a future land use map since our first regional plan in 1971 and 72. And over the decades, our organization has had the discretion by state law to decide how we want to categorize different areas. And over the decades, there were different ways we did it, and there was different logic behind it. This law passed in 2024, Act 181 is now requiring our organization, along with all the regional planning commissions across the state of Vermont, of using specific land use categories. So we no longer can choose how we want to categorize. We have to follow these categories, and state statute outlines specific criteria that we have to follow in order to make sure that an area can qualify for certain categories. And ultimately, I mentioned that our plan is going to be reviewed by a state board. And so they're going to be checking this map to make sure essentially we're checking off all the boxes relating to state law. Additionally, there's this guidance document that has been produced by all the regional planning commissions so that we're interpreting the law the same way. There's specific terms that we want to make sure that everyone's interpreting it the same way. So an example is the term walkable shows up. So what is walkable? Different regional planning commissions could interpret that term differently. Is an area walkable? Is it, or is it not? And so I'm just trying to give an example to say that that's why there's this guidance document, so that there's an agreed upon definition of walkability based off.
Where
of
did that
this.
come from?
The term walkable.
Everything's walkable.
Yeah, and I think that's
That's.
yeah,
It's not even-
and so that's exactly why there's this guidance document, so that, you know, one regional planning commission could be interpreting the term walkable different than, okay, I can walk on the side of a road, is that walkable? Like you're saying, everything's walkable. So what is the term walkable in this specific context? And so it was decided, so that we're all interpreting this term the same way, is that it was essentially a given area would have to be 70% of the buildings in a given area would have to be 0.25 mile radius from a sidewalk. Why 0.25 miles? Why not 0.3? Why 70%? Ultimately, there needed, just because it's like you put it, is ambiguous. We wanted one agreed definition in order to interpret this law that has these ambiguous terms. And so how do you, yeah.
Application. The regional plan, if someone has to go through an Act 250 permit.
Yeah.
They have to adhere to not just the local plan, but the regional plan, is that correct?
Yeah, so how that works is, you're right, so the regional, in terms of a regulatory context, this plan shows up in Act 250. There's 10 criteria in Act 250. The 10th criteria is quote unquote conformance with the municipal and regional plan. And so how that works is that if there's a conflict, so if a proposed development is seeking an Act 250 permit, the 10th criteria is conformance with the municipal and regional plan. If there is a conflict between the municipal and regional plan, and what the term conflict means is that if one plan allows for the proposed development and the other plan doesn't, essentially there is what's called, if the development meets the definition of a substantial regional impact, which is a definition that we have to define in our regional plan. And it's also something that will be is available, and I'm happy to send to the board. But essentially, if there's a conflict between the plans, you go and look at the definition, and if it meets the definition of a substantial regional impact, then the regional plan takes precedence, and if it doesn't meet the definition of a substantial regional impact, then the town plan takes precedence. If there is no conflict, then they review both plans, because both plans would either allow for it or not allow for it. One of the things I'll note is that, I mentioned that our plan, one of the values that we want to implement in our plan was being flexible. And so, where we really want to make sure that, that definition for what is substantial regional impact, that impact should be regional. Like we don't want something that would be, like, we don't really care about if you're doing a single family home rural development. Like, we're not going to prevent that anywhere in town. Or a small commercial business, things like that. And that's something I'm going to mention later on. But yes, the plan shows up in Act 250 as one of these criteria, which is something that has always been the case in terms of that 10th criteria.
Well, I'm looking at the categories.
Yeah.
So essentially, the regional plan is going to quote overlay Rutland County with these districts now, is that correct?
Yep, yeah, and so the Rutland region, we've had a future land use map since.
Correct.
Yep. And so what we're required to do is now use these categories as well as every regional planning commission has to use these categories. Yeah, and so that's
specified under this Act 181 that was supposed to streamline Act 250. Right?
yeah, it's requiring us to use these categories and different specific categories or specific areas that the town could choose to opt into specific Act 250 exemptions. And when I show the town level map, you'll see exactly where that area is, and I'll explain exactly what that process would look like. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions, comments? From here, I'm going to explain these categories. and give you some regional context, and then we'll look at, zoom in on Pittsburgh specifically. Yeah. So I'm gonna go through these categories. And this is ultimately a draft. This is a map we're still working on, and I just want to let you know that this is a region-wide map, and then here we're going to be zooming in specifically on Pittsburgh, and it'll be a lot bigger, so you can see all the details. And you know, there's a whole, like I mentioned, there's criteria and there's methodology. This small text here, which if you blew it up in 12 font, is about 4 pages. This is the specific criteria that we have to go and, you know, review and make sure that it's, you know, checking off all the boxes, if you will. And in the prep material, I'll note that the prep material that was given ahead of time has all the details of exactly what those criteria are. I'm going to briefly kind of go over each one of these categories so you have a broad sense. And then when I show Pittsburgh's map, I'll go in a little bit more detail and how specific boundaries were created and things like that. So when we look left to right, there is downtown centers and village centers, and these are the kind of mixed use core of a village. And these downtown centers and village centers, upon approval of our regional plan, would be enrolled in the state designation framework as a center. Pittsburgh currently has a designated village center, which provides benefits to property owners. And I just want to be really clear for everybody that throughout this entire process, no one's losing any benefits. So, you know, this process is actually potentially would allow for gained benefits and additional land to be enrolled into the state designation program.
So whose benefits?
So these are benefits specifically to both property owners and municipalities. So an example would be there's enrollment in the downtown and village center tax credits. So some examples of these tax credits provided by the state would be like a facade improvement or a code improvement. And so ultimately, it's up to the property owner whether they want to use these tax credits or not. But the town has been enrolled in the program, and so that gives the property owner
benefits per the state and grants and other things like that. Is that what you're referring to? in
It's-
the benefits term?
It's both to property owners, which would be like a tax credit, and to the municipality, which would be like priority funding, priority consideration for specific grants. So there are benefits for both property owners and the municipality. Yep. That's a great question, though. The next 2 categories looking on here are planned growth area and village area, and these categories surround the downtown center or village center. And this area, you know, the planned growth area, the village area, upon approval of the regional plan by the state, would be enrolled in the state designation program as neighborhoods. These 4 categories, downtown center, village center, planned growth area, and village area, these 4 categories are the categories the town could choose to opt into this Act 250 exemption. And it's specifically called a Tier 1B Act 250 exemption. And what that exemption would be exactly is that a housing development of anywhere between a single family home all the way up to 50 housing units would be exempt from Act 250 if it's in one of these 4 categories. The location of the development is in one of these 4 categories, and the acreage is of 10 acres or less. And then there's also, I said housing units, but it also could be a quote unquote mixed use development. I've had a question asked by a couple municipalities of what exactly is a mixed use development in this context. So for example, if someone's proposing 4 commercial structures and one of those structures is a single bedroom, is that a quote unquote mixed use development that would, be exempt from Act 250 under this new framework? That's a good question, and one that the developer would likely go to the state and ask for what's called a jurisdictional opinion, and they would go and look at the specific context of that proposal and let you know, yeah, you do apply or you don't apply. So essentially, I just want to make it clear though that this would be specific to these 4 categories, and I'll make sure to point out when I show Pittsburgh's map exactly where we're talking about. And it's up to the municipality to decide if you want to opt in. And it's for housing developments of up to 50 units or mixed use development on 10 acres of land or less. And the details of all that is also in the prep packet we had sent ahead of time. The remainder, oh, go ahead.
So these 2 areas are the areas targeted for exemption from Act 250.
Yeah.
Provided the town has subdivision and
Yeah.
has zoning and
Yeah.
subdivision law, correct?
Yep, so essentially, we kind of went and looked at the requirements for tier 1B and were able to determine Pittsford would be able to opt in provided you adopt subdivision regulations and you keep the zoning. And so that's one of the requirements, is having zoning and subdivision regulations. And so those are the 4 categories that relate to the state designation program, and they relate to this tier 1B Act 250 exemption. There are transition infill areas that are essentially areas that are served by a sanitary sewer or water system, but for one reason or another didn't meet the requirements for one of these 4 categories. There's enterprise areas, which are natural resource extraction areas or commercial land uses that involve a large amount of land area. There are these resource-based recreation category, which is not any recreational resource, but what the category is really referring to is recreation with associated development. So examples would be a ski resort with condos nearby, or shoreline development is probably the most common type of resource-based recreation area that shows up in the region. On the far right-hand side of this graphic is the rural categories. And there's hamlets, which are just a dot on a map, just acknowledging historic clusters that might have once been mixed use, and in many cases are just residences. So an example would be really that's really some of these examples aren't really close to Pittsburgh, so I don't think that might be helpful. But essentially, they're kind of historic clusters that are for one reason or another didn't meet the definition of being a downtown center or a village center, essentially. Then there's rural general, rural ag and forestry, and rural conservation. For all these categories, essentially what the intent is that we're saying what we give our highest support for specific land uses, but for all 3 rural categories, we're allowing rural development. So it's, rural ag and forestry doesn't mean we're only saying ag and forestry. If someone wants to go and put a single family home, or they want to go and put a small rural commercial business, they can do that. Same thing with rural conservation. So I just want to be clear. I think it's a little bit of a misnomer, that the terminology here, but really what we're saying is that rural ag and forestry, we're giving our highest support for agriculture and forestry, activities in the future. Rural conservation, we're giving our highest support for conservation in the future. But if a landowner chooses to, put a single family home or a small commercial business that's of a rural character, they're not going to have a problem in conforming with the regional plan. That's not, there's already other criteria in Act 250 that look at other environmental considerations. And so, we're not adding, anything related. What we're really focused about is keeping a rural character. And so, a small commercial business, a single family home, that's a rural character. Yep.
Where I read somewhere that current use is fallen,
Yeah.
gonna be
Yep.
enveloped into this
So
somewhere?
essentially, the rural agriculture and forestry boundary, how we decided to map that, we used parcels currently enrolled in the current use program as a way of classifying this category. And the reason we did that was because enrollment into the current use program is a tax program, and you have to demonstrate that there is agriculture of some scale and that there is forestry of some scale. And so what we're saying is that there's some agriculture and there's some forestry of some scale, and we want to support what's already happening. But essentially, if a landowner wanted to get out of the current use program, which is a financial penalty that they'll have to pay, but that's ultimately up to the landowner to decide. But if they choose to do that and they choose to develop it, again, we're allowing rural development. So we're not going to get in the way of them, developing it into a single family home. The reason why we used current use as a way of determining these boundaries was so that it's just a tax program that is reliable in saying, hey, there's some sort of agriculture, hey, there's some sort of forestry here, because you had to demonstrate that in order to enroll in the program. And so that's how the current use program fits in. But we're not saying can't
You're
go
not
out of
gonna
current.
use that as a deterrent
No,
if something's
no,
in current
no.
use.
It's just it was just the best data set that we thought was available in order to determine whether a parcel is in a given category. But where we want to allow rural development. You know, our intent is to encourage development in villages, but we want to allow rural development. You know, the state of Vermont's goal is, you know, is actually on this page, to maintain the historic settlement pattern of compact downtowns and village centers separated by a rural countryside. That goal is still met by rural development. That's a rural countryside. So that is sort of, you know, it's really what we're saying is rural ag and forestry, our highest support would be for ag and forestry, but if you want to do, you know, rural development, that's okay. You know, we're not putting any additional, if Act 250 for some other reason, you know, he says, oh, you don't meet this criteria, whatever, but our plan is not going to get in the way of rural development.
Is there still gonna be the 10 district offices?
Yeah, that is not, my
Different
understanding is
commissions.
that's not changing. Yeah, that the district offices are the district offices, yeah. So essentially, the next, you know, 2 slides on here are a breakdown of kind of, for each category, the percentage of land area, the percentage of buildings, and the number of towns that are in a given category. I'm not gonna go through each one of these numbers. What I am gonna just kind of, I wanna, you know, for regional context, I want you to know that 94% of the region is of one of these rural categories. And it is to say that the region is largely rural. And so, you know, if there's any other questions on the regional context, I'm happy to talk about that now. I was going to transition to zooming in on Pittsford specifically. And I kind of wanted to start by talking about our current future land use map. So you kind of see what we currently have adopted in our current regional plan and where we think we might be heading with this draft map under this new standardized framework that we're required by the state to do.
Has anyone thought about putting what's owned by the state and national government as well as what is in a conserved program forever? Because I think it's around 25% of the state.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that be in a block?
Yeah, and so that
Because that's untouchable.
yeah, and so are you asking why wouldn't that be like its own category, like a separate category?
Because it doesn't produce anything for anybody, really. It's just
Yeah,
there.
you know, and I think that's a good question. I feel like that's a question for the lawmakers who wrote this. And you know,
Come on.
that's because you know, I think there's a lot of things of how, you know, our organization, right, over the years is categorized things in different ways. And I know some regions have had and some municipal plans have a government owned
Maybe a
land.
question to bring up in your discussion sometime.
Yeah, and you know,
Because
yeah, and so
it's a lot of land.
yeah, and you know, there's one of the
This is controlling the other 75%,
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
have.
yeah, and that sort of you know, those sort of parcels are often mapped in one of these data sets that kind of was part of how these boundaries were created, which Vermont has what they call a protected lands data set, which is they maintain a data set of everything from Green Mountain National Forest to you know, a parcel that they know is under a conservation easement. And so those parcels are, you know, mapped as rural conservation and kind of reflects that. Yeah, it's likely not going to be developed, and as you put it, yeah, there are large percentages of the
I
state
think
that are
it
like
should
that.
be included
should
on
be
the
in a whole
future
nother
land
block.
use map.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But-
It's open, yeah.
but yeah, that's
They
a
can hold them.
yeah. And so from here, I'm gonna transition to kind of talking about our current map that we have adopted in 2018, and then then we'll kind of see where we're going as a draft, and ultimately it's a draft for 2026. So this is the current map that was adopted in 2018. If I showed you a region-wide version of this map, there'd be 2 things that you should be aware of. One is that there are 4 categories, only 3 of them are in Pittsford. There's high density, medium density, low density, and development constrained. How they created this map was before my time, but my understanding was that they looked at kind of existing density in different areas of town, as well as given development constraints. And so that's one thing I want to mention. Another thing I want to mention is that this map depicts firm lines, and what I mean by that is that you can see when one category starts or stops, and so you, like, there are firm lines of, okay, it's this category versus this category. Our current map is what's blended or blurred, and what that means is that you would not be able to tell exactly where the boundary is, where it starts or stops. We're not able, under this new standardized state framework, to blend or blur the boundaries. And so for this conversation's purpose, we wanted to remove the blur so you can get a sense of kind of the firm boundaries of this map, albeit that's not really what the official map looks like. But just since we're gonna have to do it per the state law, I wanted to show this here. And so there is no high density district or category in Pittsford. And so an example would be somewhere like Rutland City. And medium density is really, you know, the village of Pittsford. Low density, which is really like a rural residential type category, is you know, most of Pittsford, I'd say. And then development constraint, I would say, shows up in a couple areas in Pittsford. This, I think, would have to probably do with steep slopes. And, you know, some of these others, I'd have to think about exactly what the constraints are that led, you know, a given area to be mapped as development constraints. But do you have any thoughts on why it might be development constrained or anything like that? Or,
Elevation,
yeah, gotcha.
same way on the western side,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
conics, right?
yeah, yep.
Yeah, they're kind
What
of,
about the Otter
they're a
Creek?
little to the east from whatever they are, but sure.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, and so this is the one that we.
so that's the white areas?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's this color right here.
Yeah, something's wrong there. You've got,
Yeah,
is that Route 7 that goes all the way down in
yeah, and
Rutland?
this
That is
piece
not
kind of,
correct.
this piece kind of confuses me too. I don't really understand the logic behind that one. And so, yeah, I think that's, I think that's a good question.
That's commercial, that's all commercial land right alongside. that
Right,
road.
yeah.
So that's incorrect.
Yeah, and that, that's ultimately the map that we have currently adopted.
Well,
and-
that's not right.
That's not
Yeah.
I can tell you that right
It's
now.
not
Yeah,
right
and so
on.
that's-
Not even close.
So that's a good note to mention, as we're thinking about, this next draft and making sure that part of Pittsford's mapped.
I'm not sure how that got blocked out like that.
Yeah,
Well, on the west side is
It's a good
coming way east from where it should be.
Mhm.
Right, you got,
Because, I mean, you got-
industrial areas over there. right?
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
So that's,
And that industrial area should be marked in there too.
yeah, those are good.
Where's the Otter Creek corridor fall in there?
And I
it's
think
that
that
blue line right in the middle.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, what zone's it in? I mean,
that's all just rural
That's rural.
residential, yeah.
It's restricted.
Mhm.
Well,
The
it's
floodplain
one-
restriction.
Floodplain, yeah.
Yeah, and that's sort of the, kind of going back to that it's not blurred, or that our current map is blurred. I think that level of detail, they just didn't try to capture, whoever was working on this map. But this area in particular kind of is something I'll look into, and why, what might be the constraint there.
Well, you need to look at the west
There's-
side,
yeah,
that
yeah,
west
right.
side too, that's
Yeah.
way over too far.
Yeah, you're talking
From
about
where-
like where the boundaries kind of, yeah,
No, it's not.
yeah,
There's
The
this
conics
recurring
barely
theme
take
here.
in.
There is.
You know
yes,
that?
Yeah.
yeah.
There's
That
a
is-
recurring theme here.
Hmm.
Who produced that?
Yeah, and so this
Somebody
is.
wanted-
This is from our office. I'm not really sure. These are people before my time.
Was it
Um,
the old one, Logan?
This is the map that, yeah, this is the old one. Yep, this is not the draft map. Yeah. And so so essentially, we wanted to kind of set the stage of what our map is currently, so that you kind of understand where we're going. The next slide, I was gonna transition to the draft map, and specifically zooming in on Pittsburgh. The next slide, I want to call out, we'll have a pie chart of the percentage of land area in the town. One thing I want to mention too is that, we really want to hear any suggested, revision requests to this map from you all. And, legislation limits how we can adjust things. Like I mentioned, ultimately, we have to go and show to the state, and they're going to look at the map and make sure that's checking off all the boxes. But we want to incorporate, your input. We just got to make sure that we're checking off all the boxes with the state, in this new framework ultimately. I'm gonna essentially show the map and I'm gonna kind of walk through, kind of starting at the village and working my way out. Of kind of how these categories were created, like how these boundaries were created. And you know, we can definitely discuss and answer questions on why things look the way they do. And you know, one thing to yeah, ultimately, I'm gonna be taking notes about potential revision requests and things like that, but the thing that ultimately I will want something in writing because we want to make sure that we hear you, you know, correctly, so that I'm not misinterpreting anything that you are requesting. Another thing is that it doesn't necessarily, it could be in writing. I'm gonna be leaving this map here. So if you also want to like draw on the map and say, hey, this area should be this category, this area should be that category, however you want to do it, you know, by all means. So just wanted to make that point clear too. Yeah, so I'm gonna start with the downtown district. And that is this sort of darker and you're welcome to get closer to this map if you'd like. I also want to point out that this map is available on our website at rutlandrpc.org. This specific map, by the way, just for Pittsford, is available on our website, rutlandrpc.org/plan 2026. As well as there's a web version of the map that will show parcel boundaries once you zoom into a given area. And so yeah, I just wanted to also make that clear. So the downtown boundary, how this boundary was created was that I mentioned that Pittsford has a designated village center. So the entirety of that designated village center was included in this boundary. And then part of this law was we were looking to see if there are possibly areas that under this new law could be expanded into the downtown district, and they would then get these benefits afforded by the state designation program.
Well, can you tell us what the colors mean to start with?
Yeah,
Pink
yeah,
is
yeah.
what, yellow's what, the green,
Yeah,
the blue?
yeah.
on that
And
part.
I was,
Oh, are they? I'm sorry.
I was gonna
Oh, they
go,
go with the pie?
I was gonna go, yep, they go with the
Okay,
pie
yeah, all
chart,
right,
yeah.
yeah, thanks.
And they also, I'll also point out as I walk through each district, I'll make sure to say what color we're talking
Okay.
about. Even down to the colors are actually standardized across the entire state of Vermont.
Okay.
So the entirety of the state designation, state designated village center is included in the downtown Pittsburgh, the downtown boundary. And then that boundary was expanded to include, sorry, no worries, totally understand. Yeah, and so we were looking to see if there were potential, you know, civic or commercial areas that like immediately adjacent could be expanded, that downtown boundary could be expanded. And so in looking, we thought the boundary could be expanded to the other side of Route 7 and kind of further down. And so, you know, the car dealership that's down there, the firework or CC and fireworks, I believe, and the Dollar General on the corner of Plains Road is also included. And so essentially it's the state designated village center plus you know, the car dealership, CC fireworks, and Dollar General, basically stretching the boundary down that way. And so that's how the downtown boundary was determined. To qualify as a downtown, you would need to adopt subdivision regulations. So that's one of the things we assumed. The planned growth area, which is the area that surrounds the downtown, for the most part, with a few, yeah, essentially it's this darker color that, you know, is right here, essentially this color right here. And so, you know, that is essentially based off the data we had available is the sewer service area. And if you think they're except for Plains Road, and I'll explain exactly why and as I get further down. And one thing, you know, is if you're like,
So
hey, the sewer
planned
service
growth
area,
is only to do with connection to the sewer system.
not exactly.
I think there's a whole 1% that's
Yeah.
available.
And then except the area on Plains Road, and I'll explain why there were specific reasons why we couldn't map. And I know Plains Road is served by sewer, and I believe both sewer and water. And
New sewer.
Mhm.
Yeah, new sewer, yeah.
yeah, and so you know, the sewer, so essentially it was the sewer service area based off the data we had available, except for flood related mapping data sets. So FEMA maps flood hazard areas, and the state of Vermont maps river corridors, and so we had to exclude those areas as part of the requirements. Essentially, it's this sewer service area except for Plains Road. And when I get to this orange strip, I'll explain why. It not in one of these flood related mapping categories, the river corridor, the flood hazard. And so you can kind of see that, you know, here along, I think that's Sugar Hollow Brook, I believe. And then in addition, you know, there's Pittsford Village area, and there's actually very tiny bits of the village area. So you might not even be able to really see it on this map unless you get pretty close, but there's some lighter pink right here. Maybe you can tell the difference from this color to this color. I recognize these colors are hard to differ, so I apologize, but it's the standardized colors that we have to work with. And yeah, and so essentially, there are essentially two village areas that these were areas that, based off of our data, sewer service area, didn't seem like they were in the sewer service area, although we only have the data that we have available. So you folks might know better than us. Of like, actually, no, that could be served by sewer. But essentially, it has suitable soils for a septic system. And what that means exactly, that's one of those terms that the RPCs, all the regional planning commissions, want to have an agreed upon definition of what is adequate soils for a septic system. And the state of Vermont, the Agency of Natural Resources, has a data set where they map all the soils in the state for kind of their ability to potentially accommodate a septic system. And so they divide up these soils into, I believe, 5 or 6 categories, and class 1 through 3 are the categories that, you know, are considered adequate soils for a septic system. This isn't a substitute for actually a test pit and doing real field work, right? But it's the best data set we had available to implement this law. And so essentially, you know, the village area was determined by, it has those soils that I just mentioned. And it was in the Pittsford Village zoning district. And so it kind of meets these requirements relating to how it's being planned for the future. It's planned as the village, so it can be a part of the village area. Except we have to exclude any areas that are in these flood hazards again. So the river corridor mapped by the state or FEMA flood hazards. These 3 categories, downtown Pittsford, the planned growth area, and the village area, so these 3 colors, these would be the areas that the town could choose to opt into that Tier 1B Act 250 exemption that I mentioned. And so that's the area we'd be talking about. I think I might actually want to mention Plains Road really quick now, and why isn't Plains Road included? It's served by sewer. One of the requirements that we had to look at was we had to look at the zoning and how the town is kind of planning that given area in the future. So when we looked at the zoning map, that part of town is mapped as rural. And when you look at the zoning provisions, it essentially doesn't allow for the amount of housing density that would allow us to map this requirement. So if the state went and, let's say we decided to map it as planned growth area, essentially what would happen, based off of how we're reading the zoning and how we're reading the law right now, is that the state would say, oh, this isn't planned for higher density because the town has it zoned as rural. And so that was the reason why we have it as this transition infill area, because it is served by sewer, so it has the infrastructure to accommodate higher density, but it's not really mapped as a village, like as part of the village, it's mapped as rural. And so that's why it's mapped as transition infill, and that's the only
Communicate that to
transition
the
infill.
planning commission?
Sorry?
Communicate that to the planning commission? Do they
Oh, I
coordinate
will
with-
tomorrow night.
Yeah, and so, yep, and so that's,
'Cause we're
yeah.
reviewing that too, are we not?
yep,
Just the plan or the zoning laws,
Everything.
everything. Plans to. I need to maybe look at that one.
yeah, and so those, you know, that's the sort of thing where, you know, we have a time horizon in order to get this map done, and if we are able to know that that's going to happen, we can accommodate that sort of revision. We ultimately just need to, you know, our plan, we want it adopted by, we actually have to have it adopted by mid-June 2026. And, you know, the state has outlined a pretty long process from final draft to officially adopted plan. And so we need to have this map, you know, fully finalized by like the end of our entire plan, actually fully finalized for the official process by like September, October. And that's why we're asking for revision requests in the next, if you have any. If you want to make changes to this map, we're really asking for these requests over the next 3 weeks. But if you need an additional extension, we can accommodate that. Yeah, well, yeah.
So I'm looking at that.
Yeah.
You sure your blues and your greens aren't reversed?
Yeah, and I can explain,
I don't think you can,
well, and
because what you've got is blue is not ag land, and what you've got is
Yeah.
green is not conserved land.
yeah,
Up in that upper
yeah,
corner.
yep, and so this part, these blue areas are determined by if you're enrolled in the current use program. That's the mechanism. And current use program could be agriculture or forestry. And so that was the sort of data set we're using to help identify what is going on. But if you want to, that's a request that, something we'd ask in writing, and if you want to see changed.
So the blue is in
Absolutely, yep. This color right here,
is in current use.
Yep, and specifically 2023 data.
So in the dark green, it says according to what I'm reading here, it says the dark green is rural conservation.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be
22%.
what's in land use, current use?
So current use is you don't have to be in current use if you're doing agriculture.
I'm well aware of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But I'm looking, if you look at your other map, what you've got up there in blue,
Mhm.
which you're saying is rural agriculture, you had as, I forget what it
It
was.
would be agriculture and forestry. So it could be forestry activity. And what's required to be enrolled in current use is not like, it could be largely conserved land with select pockets of forestry
Okay, so then I
activity.
guess you
Yeah.
need to explain to me the rural conservation. What does that mean?
Yeah, yep. And so that boundary was by looking at specific conservation related data sets from government entities. And so if you want, I can tell you what those data sets are.
Yeah, no, I
Yep,
kind of want
yeah,
to know.
Yep, yeah, and this is something that's specifically spelled out in the prep packet, so just so you know that if you don't need to write, it's in the prep packet. But essentially, it's just make sure I got this here for you. Yeah, and so it would be elevations of 2,500 feet or higher. And actually, to be clear, if you're in the current use program and you're in one of these conservation data sets I'm about to speak to, so what happens if both are the case? Then you are classified as agriculture and forestry. And so there are these cases where a given area of a town could be classified in multiple categories, and so agriculture and forestry was essentially put above conservation in this hierarchy, essentially of, okay, if you have to, if it qualifies one of these two, there's a standardized way of handling that. But yeah, so essentially, provided it's not in the current use program, it'd be elevations of 2,500 feet or higher. The state of Vermont has these data sets called highest priority interior forests and highest priority connectivity blocks, which have to do with areas of land that allow for wildlife connectivity or these sort of larger blocks of forest land. These class 1 or class 2 wetlands that are 5 acres or larger, source water protection areas, and then the floodplains I mentioned. So the FEMA mapped floodplains and the DEC, the state mapped river corridors, those flood related areas. And so
You're gonna put wildlife corridors on this too? Is that what you're saying?
that is one of the inputs in this methodology. And so these are the things, I would tell you, I'm taking notes here tonight, but I'd ask for that input in writing, or even if it's just in the minutes of this meeting. Just because we ultimately want everything in writing to document through this
Town is a
process.
Wildlife corridor, you
Yeah.
can't say there's.
Well, and
So,
Right through here. is one.
in Act 250.
Yeah.
Developments that fall under Act 250. Now they're gonna consider wildlife corridors.
it's ultimately a data set just to classify a given land area. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the values we have is that we want to be flexible. And so we want to allow for rural development. So if you're in rural conservation and you want to
build a single family home and Act 250 would otherwise approve it, or you want to put up a small business and Act 250 would otherwise allow it, we're not standing in the way of that. Ultimately, what these different rural categories are really just saying is, what do we give our strongest support for a given land use activity? But it's not saying conservation is conservation. No, you can do rural development if you want to. What we're saying is you can encourage, like we're encouraging conservation, but we allow for, we're not going to get in the way of rural development in any of these rural categories.
Well, I think that map needs to be
Yeah.
looked at.
Yeah, and so that's, yeah,
We're
ultimately,
gonna need a little more than 3 weeks probably to digest
Yep,
that.
yeah, and
I
yep.
think you better relook some of your lines.
Yeah, and I get it. Yeah, and ultimately, this is a draft we're still working on. This is part of the process of revising the boundaries. So this is not, we're not seeing this as the final map. That's why we're here to talk to you as well as all
Was that
27
map in
select
our
boards.
prep packet?
I didn't.
This
I
map
don't
is,
recall seeing that.
this map is not in the prep packet. This map though is available online on our website right now. And the website is in
Yeah, I
your.
wrote it
in your-
down. I
Yep,
just-
yeah, and it's all over the slide handout as well.
The Rutland Regional Planning Commission is made up of representatives from each town, am I
Yep,
right?
yep, exactly.
We currently have somebody on that board. I thought,
And Donna Wilson.
have you seen that before?
I've seen the big one. They didn't have it broken out by town. This is the first time I've seen the town one.
Yeah.
And the one I saw before was very pixelated. It does take a while to load on a computer and I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily see just.
So
Pittsburgh.
the way that it's broken up, is that along property boundaries or anything, or?
So, yeah, so depending on the category, the current use program is property boundaries. You're a parcel in the current use program or you're not, so that's property boundaries. The enterprise
Yeah, that's not
area,
Right, I can see it on that.
and I'm, okay. And then there's enterprise areas, which also have to do with parcel boundaries, as well. And so, you know, there's Amya, and then there's also, what is this down? Yeah, and then this area over here is like VT, I think this is the electric power and town line equipment. I think there might be a solar field in the back half of this parcel. Yeah, and you know, these enterprise areas again are kind of natural resource extraction areas or other commercial land use. That's a large amount of land area, and so that might be, you know, if there are additional enterprise areas in any of these categories, we want to hear, you know, potential revision requests that you all are requesting. That's why I'm here tonight. And yeah, and so essentially, if you're not in the current use program, you're not in one of these conservation related categories, and you're not, you know, any of these other categories, then you would be rural general. And rural general is anything rural, but we're giving our highest support for rural development, essentially.
Well, I'll note that I don't think it's right to use property boundaries to define different zoning areas, different future land uses.
Gotcha.
All right, and there's quite a bit missing on this map, even when you comment about solar fields.
Yeah,
You
and
got
it's not
one
a
there.
map.
Yeah, but.
Nope. Yeah, it's not a map of just solar fields,
No,
but
no,
yeah, I
no,
hear you.
But if you say that's a
Yeah.
commercially used piece, then I see some missing already. I think it's gotta be accurate, otherwise it's not worth.
Yeah, no, and I 100% agree, and that's why it's ultimately a draft, and that's why we went to all 27 municipalities, because you're gonna know your town better than anyone, I bet.
And that's
And
why it's
so-
gonna take a little longer than 3 weeks
Yep,
probably. to
and that's
figure this
why
out.
we're happy to accommodate, you know, you need an extension, and we also have the reality of this law being passed and it needing to fit in this timeline as well. But we want to include, you know, as much input as we can. We just ultimately need to go and be able to say to the state, like, yes, it checks off all the boxes. And so, yeah, any of these categories, we want input from. Yeah.
So as much information as you can.
Yeah.
There's more than that. Then what? More than you can.
What do you mean? Oh, like revision requests?
Revisions or reality?
I'm not sure what you mean by reality, but I mean,
There,
Yeah, can you
you're
just clarify
saying there's not a timeline, but there is a timeline.
yeah, there's definitely a timeline.
So we
Yeah.
get 3 weeks to figure out for our town.
And again, we can accommodate, you know, an additional, you know, we can make that timeline longer, but we all ultimately have our timeline from the state
So
too.
the ultimate
Um,
approval of Pittsburgh's future land use map lies with the regional planning commission.
Nope, so there's two separate things going on here. The town of Pittsford has the, you know, the town plan, and, you know, there's a whole process where it goes to the planning commission, then the select board ultimately approves it. And that's the Pittsford town plan. The regional plan, it goes through our regional board, which Pittsford has one representative and
Trying
each
to do away
municipality.
with inconsistency, correct? Between the two.
Yeah, yeah, and you're talking about, yeah, this is why we want public input, is that we
Yeah,
want to be aligned with the towns, yes. We
Great if it
ultimately,
looked the same.
sorry,
It would be great if the regionals
yeah,
map, future
Yeah.
land use map for the town of
Yeah.
Pittsburgh resembles
yeah,
Oh,
and ul-
Pittsburgh's land.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
a reoccurring plan.
really?
Yeah,
We
I know,
went through
been
this
there.
before, yeah.
yeah, and, you know, ultimately it kind of goes back to, again, the state is gonna have to look at and make sure that we're checking off all the boxes specific to the state requirements specific to this regional plan.
I don't
Yeah.
mean to be grilling you.
No, this is why I'm here. Questions, comments, concerns, that's why I'm here. Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
Butch, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't want to get lost. That the greatest advantage to Pittsburgh is having a big tier 1B area.
Yep.
That's the important piece, you know, that's Act 250 exempts. Everything else around it, there's other exemptions for everything else around it, but the tier 1B, we can't get tier 1A, we just don't have the infrastructure for it. But here's the bigger you can make tier 1B, the better the happen is gonna be. Yep. Do I have that right?
Yeah, and so, yeah, a lot of towns have been looking at this and, okay, where do we want to focus our time in these revision requests? And it's been thinking about, okay, where could we expand the tier 1B area to get the most out of it if the town is interested in opting in? Yep, yeah. And just to be quick with it, this form essentially, if the town did want to opt into tier 1B, I have one copy of this form. This form's also online, on the same website I've mentioned a couple times. And essentially, let's say the town did want to opt in, you'd fill out this form, and if you have any questions, you know, we can help. And you would ultimately submit the form to us by June or July 1st of this year. And then part of our process is that we'd be submitting all these forms on behalf of all the region's municipalities who have filled out the forms. And then upon approval of our regional plan, the tier 1B exemption would go into effect.
So can we have that tier 1B without subdivision regulations at this point?
No,
No.
yeah, that is a
So-
requirement.
So
yeah.
it's, we've got to
So-
get that.
And we're almost
And-
there.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think they'll have it by end of June?
And that's one of those things
Gotta
that,
be
you know,
close.
If it's pending.
yeah, no, exactly, if it's pending, because
Okay,
ultimately,
all
what
right.
matters is they're not gonna see that form till mid-2026. So as long as by
Our-
mid-2026,
We have it.
yeah,
Because our plan has to be done by.
One more thing.
I do have it. So the important piece, if I was sitting, or you guys are sitting, the important piece is that get the Plains Road piece
Yeah,
into a tier 1B. And
Yeah.
then that would exempt all of this
yeah.
from not much of, I don't know if it's all of it, much of the Act 250 criteria.
Well, I can see
Well,
much
I
more
agree
room,
with the
yeah.
tier 1B.
Right.
And I think it's the need for, in our area at least, residential development. And if you can skirt Act 250 by using the town's zoning, that's great. But I don't think, and the state's always trying to drive residential development of all kinds into the town centers.
Yeah.
Great idea, great idea, but it shouldn't be done to the detriment of people that don't wanna live with their neighbor 25 feet away.
mhm.
That was the purpose in the legislation, I'm not speaking out of turn here, I don't think, is that was to create more density in town centers that have services. And that was. the
And it's
purpose.
all driven by energy conservation groups and so
Absolutely,
forth.
absolutely. So the areas around the outside of that are still, if your map says, yeah, this is a good place to build home. It's Still
Yeah,
gonna be
it was-
allowed,
You
but
still
you
got
may
it,
have to
correct.
you may have to jump through more hoops. Am I talking the right language here?
Yeah, so essentially, tier 1B, you gotta go, you're exempt, you don't have to go through the Act 250 permitting, that's one less permitting process you have to go through. That would be the hoops. And so, and then versus if you're not tier 1B, you still have the Act 250 permitting process. Regardless of if you are tier 1B or if you're not tier 1B, you still gotta get your zoning permit like you would today.
Okay, so one last question, then
Yeah.
so if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you wanna build a house, you're saying now you would have to go through Act 250 to
No.
build that house?
No.
No,
If there's 10 criteria that would kick you into an Act 250 review.
Yeah.
Building a single family home, I think if you built a driveway over 2,500 feet now, that would kick
that
you
would
into.
kick it in, okay.
Correct.
So,
Other,
alright.
or a certain
Yeah.
number, if
That
you
wouldn't-
developed 5 lots within.
So it's
5
gonna
years.
stay as it's been.
This is
Correct.
all about the exemption area.
Right,
Yeah, they're putting in
Okay.
place with this law.
okay, so, all right,
Did a nice job.
Had
thank you,
another-
Logan.
I appreciate it.
But.
And so we've got, till, what is our final day to get you this data?
You'd really need it at the latest in like. If it's 3 weeks, it'd probably have to be like 5 weeks. Yeah, and I recognize it's a
I'm
tight.
gonna
yeah.
tell you that that's poor planning on Rutland's part. We should
Yeah,
have
and-
a lot more time to deal
yeah.
with this than 3 weeks or
And-
5 weeks.
I definitely hear that. We're also, our timeline created by the state of Vermont is tight as well. So there's also, it's putting us also in a bind, but I definitely
This is
get
big-
it.
This is big stuff for a town, though. This is important, so.
Yeah.
3 weeks is.
Yeah, that's why
Well, I think-
we're able to accommodate, an extension, but we only have as much wiggle room as we have.
Right, but if I recall correctly, we were doing this, we were trying to do this a month ago and there was something
May 7th is when they had first suggested it,
and.
or
So
a
before that,
meeting
too.
before that,
So, yeah,
We didn't show. Yeah, that was.
it didn't
We
work
have a
out.
no show, yeah, we had an agenda. So, anyway.
okay, so it'll have to be on the next agenda and we'll, I guess
Get it done.
what people need to do is, and it sounds like going online and bringing up those maps where we can zoom
Well,
in.
there's our piece, but there's a planning commission.
So
piece.
planning commission has a meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. I will bring the concerns about Plains Road to them.
Cause they're the ones that generate our local map and our local.
Right.
Yeah,
But we've gotta
we can get in on this.
get in on this
I
and
agree.
look at it closer,
They need
them
to.
that
the areas that we are
I'm
aware
leaving that
of.
map as well as the other map. Yeah, both of them are for you all.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Logan.
Yeah, again, thank you for making the time. I recognize you're busy, so.
Fire Hill concerns.
Where would you like me to start? You want me- Is Rich Bowman on?
He is just coming on.
He's
We'll
just
write
coming
on.
on.
Yep, he's on,
Can we start with Rich and then I can read Jeff's letter?
yes.
We gotta let him get in.
If he's coming on remotely.
Yes, he's working in Killington tonight, but he said he'd be on as long as he didn't get a fire call.
Rich, could you please unmute?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rich.
So what have I missed?
We're just coming on.
Started Fire Hill.
So, we're starting,
So on my end of the things, when Dave was the town manager, I was told that all my end of the deal has been done, except with the animal issues. That it was part of the zoning boards to do what they have to do with the cars and everything else. I did go over there Saturday and it appears that Artie Forrest has a few more cars than we were when we walked the property the last time. Last year, so.
I have pictures. I drove by the other day.
okay,
This is we've got a report from Rich here. anyway.
Yep,
yeah,
yep. And he did check septic tank on Ashley's property and it is a legal septic tank. And
did you say legal?
it was put in legally.
Okay,
There is
Yeah,
a permit.
I talked to Tommy Grace Jr., he's the one that bought the property and did the septic to make sure that it was all set and all that.
I talked to Tommy about it one time and he said there was an existing septic system. I think he put in a new tank. I'm not sure what he did when he owned it, but it was done, with approval or permit. I'm not sure which he needed. When Tommy owned it,
Okay.
he sold it to.
Actually.
Jeff Biazzuzzi couldn't be here tonight. He had to be at another select board meeting. The letter I received from him today said, for select board's consideration, you are likely aware of the 3 chronic junk problem properties belonging to Wayne Forest Senior, Wayne Forest III, and Ashley Forest. My own history with these owners starts in 2016. In the first quarter of 2024, the rat complaints from Fire Hill residents caused all 3 properties to be visited by the town manager. I'm just gonna say that was Dave Atherton, not me. Health officer and myself. The select board authorized this zoning administrator to issue formal violation on all. Only Wayne Forest Senior responded and made an attempt to clean up his road frontage. Dave Atherton contacted Wayne Forest III and Ashley Forest several times during the summer, and there was minimal attempt to clean up. I did a Fire Hill Road drive-by with Atherton on November 13th, 2024. W. Forest Senior had 7 junk vehicles, boats scattered in his yard. Ashley Forest had 4 junk cars and 4 unregistered recreational vehicles / campers, some containing bags of undetermined materials. Wayne Forest III had 7 junk vehicles. I issued new zoning violations to all 3 mid-December 2024 by USPS certified mail with return receipt and regular USPS mail. W. Forest Senior contacted the town manager and left me a voicemail message soon after stating he would start cleanup again as weather permitted. Neither Ashley Forest or W. Forest III replied. Their unanswered certified letters were returned to the town about 3 months later. Their regular letters were not returned, which indicates they were delivered and ignored. It is my opinion any resolution of this solution requires a fresh issuance of zoning violations best served in person by a law enforcement officer. I believe the whereabouts of all property owners is now known, a past shortcoming. The violation should only allow for the statutory minimum of 7 days to cure the violation or 15 days to appeal to the zoning board. It is unlikely the properties will be cleaned up or owners appeal to the ZBA. Based on past failure to comply, no further cleanup agreements should be granted. The matter should be referred to the town attorney for immediate enforcement action. You should check with the town attorney, but I believe this is the only recourse available to the town for enforcement. Yeah,
I can speak about that when.
Yep.
This is,
When you allow.
Sure, we'll take, I assume that's why most of you are here, so,
Part of that.
we will listen to you and then we will discuss it.
It's been going on for way too long. Number one, it's over 3 years, like way over. And Artie Forrest Jr. has more than 7 unregistered vehicles. You have to look behind the house too. And beside the house, I have pictures of most of it. You can't see all the vehicles. And to wit, Ashley's place. Yes, I think your numbers were right on how many vehicles she's got there. Not to mention the piles and piles of discarded crap on both properties. It's just absurd. This is Ashley's house trailer. This is already Forest Junior's trailer. Whatever they do. Those are current pictures.
I have video, which I brought with me, of the 3 properties from 2024 and from last week. 2 weeks
Violations
ago.
for the unregistered vehicles should have been presented to the owners of the property long ago. There are fines for that, if I'm not mistaken. I have an article here that says something about it goes up from, it starts at $150, goes up to $250, and then goes up to $500. And nothing, has anybody been issued a ticket? That was where we started, when we brought this to you guys, that they should be ticketed.
So, Mr. Heltz, just so you're aware, because when I got thrown into this mess, Mr. Biazzuzzi was trying to pass it off to the health officer, which wasn't a health officer complaint. It was a zoning complaint, and that's where Dave had told by Zuzi to issue the tickets, and he never did.
Of course. Yeah. So it is the zoning administration's responsibility. He's supposed to respond effectively. He's supposed to appease our concerns. He's supposed to keep records. He's supposed to make field inspections, not one, field inspections. This is by your residential bylaws. Compliance summarized in writing if approved. If appropriate, take pictures, give notices of violation, initiate court action. Administer provisions of the zoning ordinance. Efficiently present information response to questions from people on Fire Hill and the board. And I'll say this nicely because I have to. Because the select board is also responsible to make the people that work with the town and with you to do their job. I feel that someone not in the film and not on the TV has not done his job. At all. At all. I mean, that's what I've said.
No, I got you.
And we know that.
Can I make a point of order? Is anyone here that hasn't signed in?
Yeah, I didn't sign it.
Did I,
So,
I have a
yes.
question?
Yep.
Did I hear that the issues of the animals have been resolved?
Rich, did you hear that question?
How about we take one thing at a time? Let's do
Identify
the,
yourself for Rich, so he knows who's asking the question.
My name is Sarah Ronfeld. I'm at 3017 Fire Hill Road. And I just had a question. If I couldn't hear what you said at the beginning, have the issues of the animals have been resolved?
what issues?
The barking, the pigs that get out, he
So-
doesn't have pigs on his
so-
property right now.
Yes, he does.
just got a new one.
There's none there.
Where
I
the
live
horses are.
I live across the street. from
Where'd
him.
they go? They were just there this weekend. There was like.
They were.
Oh, he-
They're gone. They'll be back, I promise.
But,
Okay, let's do one at a
Yeah.
time.
well, yeah.
We can't have a banter.
no,
Go ahead, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I just, having seen, I was walking my dogs and the pigs were being fed, the pigs that had died, they were packed up in front of the, and I called and.
Say
there's-
what again?
He was cutting up
You-
pigs and feeding them to the pigs.
We found a pig leg on our property adjacent to our house.
And when I,
700
Okay,
feet.
one at a time, please. So,
when I
so-
called, they said that there was, nothing they could do about that.
Well,
so
We-
hang on,
I-
hang
I'm
on.
just
Are you
thinking-
hearing this, Rich?
Yes, I am. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing, if he's butchering the pigs so they can, for food and stuff, there's nothing I can do about that. The barking dog part, if it's between 10 PM and 7 AM, something I can do about it because it's a noise ordinance issue. At night, between 7 AM and 10 PM, if the dogs are barking and everything else, there's nothing I can do about it because we follow the state statute for noise ordinance.
And what about the horses that are the seniors? The horses and the cows down in the gully?
So that's cross between livestock. So that I'm getting in kind of agricultural type things there. So, and I'm still learning that end because I don't want to do something too detrimental town and me. So, and from gathering from people that have seen those horses and everything else, they're old horses. They're gonna have skin and bone on them from what I was told.
To clarify, is that what you're bringing up?
Yes.
There's neglect.
Okay, can we?
They're not neglected because they have hay in the hay, and there's a makeshift shelter. So unfortunately, the state of Vermont law says as long as they have shelter and food, I can't do anything about it.
I respectfully disagree that that's a shelter and proper food.
Can we suffice here to say that we'll look into that point again? I know that's what we heard when we did before from, I think it was the Ag Department or the Humane Society. The rule of thumb was shelter. They didn't give any examples or any guidelines, and food and shelter.
Feed and shelter.
And there was
And
no
water.
guidelines
And
as
water.
to what would qualify. So I think maybe with Rich, we can look into that again.
Yep.
Yep.
I drove by there myself.
Yeah.
You have a question online?
Um,
Can you identify?
Yeah, it's Aaron. It's under you, Jer.
okay. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hi, my name is Erin Uger. I live at 2404 Fire Hill Road. I have a couple things, but I'm going to stick on topic with the animal. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So as far as with the animals, so in the beginning, when we brought this in last year around the March timeframe, Ashley's property had a dog that was chained up, and her property, the dog did die chained up to her property. The dog was left there dead on her property. And when I had asked Warfel about it and was asked how it was removed and the cause of death, he shut me down. He would not provide me the answer. I don't know if you guys ever followed up with Warfel about the answer, how the dog died and what happened to that, or if Ashley was ever fined for that. Again, you guys are the select board. I had assumed it was taken care of because Warfel would not continue the conversation with me last year about this. So that is one thing that if you would like to follow up with me, I would be happy to know the outcome of that animal on Ashley's property. As far as Artie Senior, which is in the middle of Fire Hill Road, he has dogs on his property. Do we have on record? Are those dogs registered? Are those dogs vaccinated? I know about 5 years ago, I have an email where I emailed the town manager, and this dog chased after me while I was walking. And the town manager told me to walk the other way because this dog was not registered and was not vaccinated with our town. Again, I have this in an email. So I'm asking, and I'd like a follow-up so that I know this is taken care of, because from what I was told at the last meeting, the select board thought this was all taken care of. As a town member who has been following up with this often, I was told to give you guys patience, to understand that you guys are working on this. And that is what I have done. Now I'm told that you guys thought it was all taken care of. So I am asking for a follow-up from someone when it is taken care of on your end. Again, Artie Senior's in the middle, has dogs on his property. Are they registered and are they vaccinated? If they are not registered and if they are not vaccinated, we have rules where they are supposed to be getting a fine per dog per day. At this point, is there a warning? Because I'm not sure what the warning grace period should be. There are rules, and I just saw a release that if a dog is unleashed on the town rec trails, they will be getting a fine. Are they getting a warning first? This is a new rule. So what grace period are we going to give someone on a town trail for a new rule? Yet we have a town rule of having our dogs registered and vaccinated. What are we going to give them for a grace period? And they've lived in this town for how long? Going forward to the next house, Artie Jr.'s house. Artie Jr. has moved out of this residence. This residence does not have a working septic system or running water, which we all know and is documented and has been discussed. He has notified you guys that he is trucking in water to feed his animals. So again, I had expected that you guys were working on this and that I had been asked to give you guys time and patience. So as far as Artie Jr.'s, I just heard that there are no longer any dogs on this residence. Has that been confirmed? How has that been confirmed? And if a dog shows up on that property, at what point and how long until it is confirmed that that dog will be registered and vaccinated? Because it was not, as of April 1st, 3 dogs on that property were not registered or vaccinated with the town of Pittsford. He is not he lives in the town of Brandon, I had asked, are they registered in the town of Brandon if he is a town of Brandon resident? I do not believe, from what I was told, that those dogs were registered in the town of Brandon either. So he lives in Brandon. He has a house in Pittsford that he does not live at. He trucks water in for his animals.
Okay, in Rich's report to Ann yesterday,
Last night.
Rich says reference on Artie's dogs, they are not registered with the town of Pittsford as of Friday, the 16th, and we're not registered in the town of Brandon. I will be dealing with that.
They were supposed to be registered and vaccinated by April 1st. How is it now May 21st and nothing has been done? Nonetheless, this was all brought over a year ago. So it has been over a year with not a single fine brought to these properties. Properties that I walk by, properties that our children walk by, with dogs that are not registered or vaccinated with your town.
Aaron, Mark Winslow here.
Hi, Mark.
You're correct on what you're talking about, and the buck stops with us. And we're gonna move on this. We did assume these things were taken care of by the people we instructed. Obviously, some things have not. I can assure you, you all have our attention. And we're gonna have to act on this, but we're gonna discuss it as soon as we hear the rest of the comments. But thank you for your input. We made notes.
Mark, I appreciate it. I have given you guys patience and support, and I will do whatever you guys need. I have submitted videos of all 3 properties from March of 2024 and March of 2025 of all 3 properties. And when we get back to the vehicles on the residents, I will have more to talk about with you folks. As far as the animal issue, at this point, I am going to put myself back on mute and would like a follow-up or some sort of a letter. Our neighbors would like to have closure when we know this has been taken care of in some way.
Understood, and we do
Thank
have your video, so thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, David Mills, I believe last year, Junior, the 3rd, whatever it is, his dogs were not registered, but he did come in and register them. Isn't that correct, Rich?
He did.
That is correct.
But he hasn't been in this year to do it.
Nope, it's every year I have to deal with him. With this.
So it's, I guess at this point, it's on you, and the same with, how about Artie Senior? This, I think, is the first time we heard about dogs at Artie Seniors.
So this is the list that I have in front of me that are all registered dogs as of 4/16. And Teresa Forrest, 4 dogs are all registered and has the rabies shots on it. So that there's nothing I can do with them.
No, not
Teresa's part of
not
it.
Teresa.
This isn't
Not
part of
Artie-
it. Yeah.
It's Artie Senior.
Yeah.
Artie Senior.
So 1143 Fire Hill Road, right?
No,
No.
What's
No,
her?
Well, wait a minute, we need
Oh.
maybe
28, he's right across the street from me.
no,
Artie
Artie
Senior.
Senior. She's talking about Artie Senior.
we
Does
may
any-
need to check the
I'm gonna
land
check that.
records for the address, because at one point it was on Teresa's property. If I remember right, she passed the deed to him,
him.
so it would not be on her property. So maybe we need to check that
Yes.
property division, which would give it an address.
I have parcel numbers, so in executive session, we can look it up on Access GIS and get
Okay,
the right
okay,
address.
So we'll have to, and then we'll have to check on Artie Senior's dogs.
Correct.
You got that, Rich?
Yep.
I already got dogs, see,
I
dogs too.
Artie Junior and
So-
Senior.
And seniors.
So are there dogs at Artie Juniors now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
I've
So-
got it.
Okay,
They may come and go like the pigs do. They were talking about 5 pigs in the pen down below his trailer.
yeah,
They're not there today.
They were there.
They'll be there again this weekend, I bet. No doubt.
okay.
He's tormenting his uncle. Is what he's doing.
I'm sorry,
What's
Gary?
going on last
He's
year?
tormenting his uncle.
And unfortunately, you're all caught in that.
Right.
Yes.
Any other comments before we start discussing this?
I just have one more question for Rich. Have you ever considered using an agency like Dorset Equine Rescue? Because the cows and the horses at already seniors aren't just old,
No, they,
and they are experts in, determining that.
Who was that?
Dorset Equine Rescue, they work with vets and have.
I know
animal-
them.
No, that's one I have not.
that's something we should pursue then.
Rich, you and I will talk.
Okay, I'll come in tomorrow morning before I go up on the hill for Belden.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Butch?
Can't help you with the horses and all. But I can help you with a situation I had many years ago over in Sudbury, where there was a junkyard. Building person lived in, looked by some of the buildings on Fire Hill. The legislature passed a very strict junkyard law. So you're relying on your town ordinances, what's not working for you, you should check that law. I've been, went through my whole battery and figured out what statute is I have at home. The way that was corrected in Sudbury, and I don't know if you're familiar with Route 30.
Oh, I know exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah, so that still hasn't been cleaned up.
No,
People-
a little of it
the owners-
disappeared.
The owner's paying a $7,500 a year fine for that.
Is he
Because-
paying it or
Huh?
just being assessed?
But
Is he paying it or?
he's
is it-
paying.
Is that by that old hotel on
Because-
30?
No, it's the one that has the Black
So-
River produce truck.
So what happened is we were able, the environmental court was able to link that junkyard to polluting water. Now you have 2 of these residences that are on the tributary.
Mm-hmm.
To the brook there.
Runs right through there.
On it.
Right.
So, that's, I don't know if it's an avenue you want to pursue.
We tried getting the state involved with this before, I remember.
Yeah.
They didn't want a thing
Well,
to
they
do
had
with it
nothing
all.
to do with it either until they A&R discovered that they were junk cars running oil and whatever.
We
was
did
left
try this
over
once.
into the brook.
Yeah.
But I don't think we tried on the cars. I think that was the septic.
No,
issues
Right,
on
you
both
gotta
of
try it
them,
on
right?
the car, you gotta try it on the cars because it's a junkyard.
Right, we've got a junk ordinance in the town,
Yeah.
correct?
Right.
3 cars.
Sure.
I'm not a resident, but I'll just toss this in because I do a lot of this for a living. You get a hold of river corridors,
Yeah.
people from the state, you can actually show them petrol and hydrocarbons going in that water and you can fast. You'll be surprised how fast they jump on that.
Well, I think we talked to A&R and they kind of.
I'm not sure it was about, it was the septic, because I remember it last year, we talked about the septic
The
issue,
septic.
because that was brought
That's a
up.
whole
Right.
different.
That's a whole different
We
ballgame.
were on the septic on Junior's
So,
place.
all right, so, okay, so Ann, you wanna get hold of them and see what we gotta do to check that out?
So no more comments before we start. Any other comments?
I
Because I just want to talk.
Finish up, it was effective there. Didn't cure the problem. But it put the landowner on notice and the landowner, and if he does not pay that fine, he's subject to jail time.
Can you give me the statute when you find it?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately.
That's fine. You know my email.
Okay, discussion.
I've got 4 things.
I
Number
still
one,
have stuff about the cars.
Okay, Aaron,
Aaron?
go quick.
Okay, sorry. So as you can see in my videos of the vehicles, and so I'll make it brief. As you can see in my videos about the vehicles, I do not agree with the head count or the total count of vehicles. For example, RD Juniors, I've counted 11, and I'm not talking the skidder, I'm not talking trailers. I'm saying last year when there was a site visit, I counted 11 vehicles. Right now I count 12 vehicles. And I know you're thinking like, wow, they cleaned up one from Ashley's. Yes, they put it at RD Juniors. Shocking, but they did. So if you do watch my videos, they are slow and you can see them. So every vehicle has a VIN number. And when I brought this to the manager, not Ann, the town manager, previous to Ann, no, Dave, yes, previous to Ann, it was like, no, they don't have stickers. No, they don't have something like the tag of inspection. And I was like, okay, so like VIN numbers. All you guys do need is a VIN number to see, is it registered? Is it, is it a registered vehicle? And like I said, there are, 11, 12, 13 on RD juniors, alone. And then Ashley's, and I understand boats and trailers and campers are not allowed to be considered one of these from what you guys told us last time. But again, the number you guys are saying is not what I'm matching. Also, I know that the town has a right of way of 15 feet. So from my understanding that the town can enforce anything within 15 feet of your right of way, which was an issue going into every winter for the town employees, our employees, to keep our roads safe, plowed, sanded, all of that, when there are vehicles in the roads right away. So again, so even if the town tries to come up with some of ways to be like 15 feet from the road, that's our right of way, needs to be cleaned up. Anything along that, or if there's hazardous material. Last year, you guys went and investigated. The report from the town manager and I believe Warfel was that all vehicles were not dripping a drip drop of anything hazardous on the ground, just so you know. So last year, however many vehicles on properties, now you can see in the videos, none of those were creating any hazardous material on the ground, was the report that the town gave to me. So I don't know when you guys do a site visit, if that's it, or if someone else needs to look into it, but registered vehicles, VIN numbers, hazardous material, road right of way, any of those, any way we can think about it, this is creating wasteland into the water. RD seniors and Ashley's are right next to rivers. Their debris is going into a river and it is going to their neighbors. It is going down the road. Their waste is not just on their properties. It is going into the road. It is going down the road. So there are some bigger issues. It's not just staying in their property. They have not built a nice little fence and a nice little bubble to keep it all there. It is spreading off their property. Also in the chat, you do have a message from Sean and Lisa who live on Blue Quarry Road. They cannot audio in, just so you know as well. So again, I'm coming and asking for a follow-up from my request over a year ago about the vehicles, the hazardous, the waste, the overflow, the town right away of these 3 properties and what it's doing to the neighbors. And I know other people in this meeting have said this before. I have not, but also the value of our properties. I know that property values are going up, and I know that I have to walk by these and that all my friends and family have to drive by these properties no matter which way they go to get to my house. And I understand maybe that doesn't seem like much, but there are places that you can have your property taxes adjusted based on this. So I have not pulled that card before, but I know others have brought it up before as well. So I'm just reminding you guys of that for previous meetings as well. I appreciate your time. If you need anything or you want to speak to me, please let me know. Anything I can do to help. I appreciate your time and your effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Do you want me to read that chat that she referred to?
Sure.
Okay. It's from Sean and Lisa. Hello, Select Board. We seem to be having issues with the audio on our end. We can hear fine, but it's not recognizing our microphone. We had hoped to speak regarding Ashley's trailer. We'd lived at 309 Blue Quarry Road for 25 years. We bought the house from Don Champagne in July of 2000. In the last 6 or 7 years, we've watched Ashley's trailer steadily. It jumped on me. Steadily spiral into an absolute disgusting embarrassment as she and her boyfriend ruined a single wide, then brought in a camper, ruined that one, brought in another, and ruined that before apparently moving out recently. I have in recent years, after they ruined the single wide trailer and started living in 2 campers, I have a hard time believing they had access to running water or septic. I've seen them washing in the stream next to the camper, and I bet their waste was going straight into there as well. These condemned domiciles and the condition of the property can't possibly meet town ordinances. Quite honestly, we're embarrassed when we tell friends and family to come out to our house for a visit and they have to drive by that property.
Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
All right, I made 4 notes here. So Jeff has to be at our next meeting. I don't care what else is going on. He
Yeah,
needs to be
he
here.
needs to be at
All right,
this one.
we're not, there's no option. He needs to be at our next meeting.
Yep.
I think we'd have to notify the Department of Ag on the animals and at least
Yep.
see if we get a response from them. I don't have a problem with notifying river corridors either, and you think we could make that, please ask the question?
I have a couple of contacts within.
But
wetland
I
and
think we
stuff.
need to make that call. I think it's a good suggestion. I do think we need to call our attorney. Yep. It's gone far enough.
Yeah.
And I think we need to make that contact with Gary and get going on this.
I would add that we contact the Agency of Natural Resources to see if they got a,
That's the river
Yeah, and
corridor. Yeah.
that part.
Yeah.
Yes.
River corridors are both, I think, under that.
Yep.
so.
And we might have Humane Society again.
Yeah, some of those cars have been there for a while, they, especially on all these juniors. There's
Yep.
gotta be leaks.
Yep, we're discussing it right now.
Sorry.
I think we need to make sure we put this on the agenda for the next meeting to see where we are with all these things we've suggested. Correct, Deb?
Absolutely, yeah.
Anything that I've got written down?
Tommy?
That's what we need to act on this. We pulled around long enough, apparently.
Well,
I
wait.
thought somebody would.
Well, I thought, I mean, we had Jeff back in December.
Believe it or not, we
Sending
did
things.
look into this extensively.
Yeah, we did.
Then something happened.
Well, then,
We, I thought we researched it as the extent that we could do anything.
At the time, yeah.
Believe me, it wasn't disregarded.
Mm-mm.
I don't think we don't need them.
If
I can just
there's
put that,
other evidence
the select
we
board
could try to do
directed
something. I
and
drove
to
by the
do
other
what
day.
you've asked.
Yeah.
And we'll put on the agenda for the next meeting to see what
We've got that on there.
response or who's come out and who's come and
Yep.
Yeah.
response from Gary, if not.
Yep.
We'll have a response from
I
Gary.
have Jeff mandate next meeting, call Gary, Department of Ag, Humane Society, River Corridor /ANR and add back to next meeting. And then I also have other notes
Jeff have
of
to be
things
here.
that I need to
Yeah.
follow up with Rich and Jeff on.
Okay, all right.
Thank
so,
you, folks.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't have an immediate
No,
solution for you,
nothing is
but
immediate.
we're, well,
No.
being,
Didn't expect-
we
didn't expect that.
we direct people to do stuff and
We hope it gets done.
we hope it gets done and we don't hear, so we assume that it is done and, well, you know what happens when you assume, so. You guys come back, you know,
We'll
that's,
be back.
You'll be back, yeah.
so, thank you all for being here.
Yeah.
Lifeguard pool hours for summer of 25.
So there's nothing in your packets about it. Liz was hoping to be here tonight. She's actually sick. She currently, after us putting up an ad in Indeed, we've done Brandon Reporter, we've done Rutland Herald. We've only got 4 lifeguards for the entire summer. So she's asking if we can have the lifeguards work Monday through Friday because that's when the camps are gonna be at the rec. And then do swim at your own risk on the weekends because we don't have enough coverage for 7 days a week of pool coverage for the summer.
I guess that's all.
Yeah.
It's either that or you close the pool on the weekends, but that's
That's kind of, because
Kind
a
of.
lot of people use it on
on the
weekends.
weekends. And that's her concern is people use it on the weekends, but it's gonna have to be swim at your own risk.
Right,
Unless-
I mean, certainly the camps are the more,
Yeah.
for us, the more important
I
time.
think it's critical we post that and the
Yep.
signage there at the pool and we
Yep.
post it on our website that it will be swim at your own risk.
Yes.
And that's all we can help with.
Yeah, we can't find the help. We've been
Yeah, we
trying
need to
all
put-
different avenues
We
and
have the signs up.
Can I get a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second, yep.
any discussion? All in favor?
Dan, if it's swim at your own risk, do you have to have a pass to swim there then? Because right now to swim there, you have to have a day pass or a season pass. So if it's swim at your own risk, do you have to have a pass? There's no one there to check it.
Yeah, but use of the rec, I think you have to have a pass.
Yeah, use of the rack.
It's just.
No,
not-
it's use of the swim. It's a swim pass.
It's a swim pass.
Swim.
Oh, there's a swim pass
There,
too?
there's no rec pass. It's
Oh.
only a swim pass. And that's one of the hard things is trying to
How
budget.
do you enforce that? So we can-
So if it's swim at your own risk, there's no one there to check you, so you can just swim at your own risk. But
Right.
usually the gate's locked if there's not a lifeguard. So if there's no lifeguard, is it open? The gate's open, and do we have to have a pass because there's no one there to check the pass?
I think we need to talk to our
We
rec
need to talk
director.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll
Thank
get
you.
back to you on
Yeah.
that, Darren. Sorry.
And that was where some of her concerns is
Yeah.
how do we want to enforce it,
Yeah.
not enforce it, that kind of thing.
So,
She's
Just get her in here for the next meeting and we'll
Yeah,
Yeah.
deal with it then.
we'll turn.
All right, so you guys pull back your motion and
I'll
your.
withdraw my motion.
Withdraw.
All right.
Yep.
Request for extension of filing the grand list.
So you have a letter from Lisa Wright in
Yeah.
your packets asking if she can extend it. It will not change the due date for taxes or anything. It's just giving her a little bit more time. She just had a
Do
grandbaby.
this every year.
See.
So can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion from anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lamp renewal.
So I put the LEMP in there, this,
Lamp.
so local emergency management plan.
Oh, that's okay.
So, sorry, I put the acronym instead of typing it out.
Well, I saw that in-
The only changes that are different than what is in your packet is they still had Dave Atherton's cell phone, so I had him switch it to mine. They had your email wrong, as one of the select board members, so I gave them the correct email address. And they changed whatever was Dave's is now my information. Those are really, and they did add in. This year for LEMP, we had to list all of the schools and nursery schools, so there's a couple of daycares listed, Lothrop and Cavalry are listed because they're all within Pittsford. Those are the only changes in LEMP, so we just need you to approve it as a select board so that we can send it on to be finalized before. I think it's, I don't know if it's supposed to be June 1st or June 30th, but
Motion for the LEMP renewal.
I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Peter Franzoni, request for resolution.
Yeah, your time.
Greetings, honorable members of the select board. I'm Peter Franzoni. I'm a Rutland City citizen, so I humbly thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Have you read your submission?
Yes, I did.
So I'm not gonna go through the whole thing again. I, Peter G. Franzoni, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to the regulations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Our oath of enlistment as soldiers. First and most important duty is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. It is a quite simple and explicit pledge, and it takes precedence over any other order or command that may be given to us, even by our Commander-in-Chief, our President. More than the safety of our Commander-in-Chief or any other officers appointed over us, more than the safety of our citizens and the general public at large. More than the safety of those in our own communities and even the safety of our own loved ones and our fellow soldiers. We are sworn and duty bound to defend the safety of our Constitution first. The reason for that primacy is obvious. Our Constitution is the basis of our ideals as Americans and the foundation of the laws of our people. It tells us everything we need to know about those ideals and rights enshrined within it, at the very beginning of the document, the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect human, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings to ourselves and to our posterity. Laws weren't written yet. They could have put anybody at the beginning of that preamble. They could have said, we the white European North Americans and nobody else. They didn't. They said everybody within the jurisdiction of the United States, we the people. To ourselves and our posterity, to everyone after us. Again, no conditions. To all Americans, everyone within the jurisdiction of the United States. Constitution represents and secures that ideal which we the people have set for ourselves as Americans. We should all have justice to ensure domestic tranquility, that we should all be provided with a common defense, and that we should all have our general welfare promoted to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves. Our Constitution protects all people of America indiscriminately. As long as any person is within the jurisdiction of the United States, they are protected by our Constitution. And our allegiance to that ideal is what brings us all together and binds us together as a nation. We take care of our own, no matter who they are, no matter what. Even if they just got here, all they have to do is step inside our jurisdiction and say, help me. And they are one of us. We got you. We'll do the paperwork later. That is the ideal. And that is why the Constitution is written the way it is, for protecting we the people, which means everyone within the jurisdiction of the United States, anytime, all the time, no exceptions. Without our Constitution, everything this nation stands for crumbles. Without it, there is no hope for the defense of the people. There is no hope for justice. There will be no general welfare or domestic tranquility. There will be no blessings of liberty. Without the Constitution, there is no United States of America, and there are no more Americans. As mighty as the ideals it represents are, and as empowering as the rights may be that are enshrined within it, the Constitution by itself is vulnerable, even powerless, without those of us willing to uphold our oath to support and defend it. Those of us that are good soldiers are absolutely cognizant and respectful of the sanctity of our oath, most particularly to the incalculable amount of sacrifice and lives lost by those before us who have borne true faith and allegiance to it. I'm a veteran. Anybody else here? Our president, my commander-in-chief, also took an oath. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Our president, my commander-in-chief, in spite of making his oath, not once, but twice now, he has violated that oath many times by making claims and performing actions that challenge the integrity of our Constitution. Each time that he has done so, not only has he dishonored himself, he has dishonored every person that has ever sacrificed and or died in defense of our Constitution. Each time that he has done so, I have tried to communicate to my commander-in-chief about the error of his ways, that it is not in his authority to interpret or challenge the Constitution. That responsibility lies within the authority of the judiciary, and the judiciary alone. And he has not heard me. As I am now civilian, those next in line for my chain of command are our senators and representatives of the federal government. I communicated my concerns to them. They in turn tried to communicate those concerns to our president, but he had not heard them either. I then tried to communicate my concerns to our governor, but he also did not hear me, nor thereafter to my local representatives to our state. I then went to my local aldermen to demand that they uphold their own oaths, and I was finally heard. I have been accused of partisanship in my efforts to get these resolutions passed. To that I say, we are all being played. Anyone who says to me that our current immigration system is dangerous and that we more or less have an open border policy, I will agree with you 100%. Immigration is out of control right now. It is terrifying. But I'm also old enough to remember when immigration wasn't much of an issue at all because it was functioning properly back then. It was huge, bureaucratic, and boring. But it was effective and safe for everyone involved, immigrants and American citizens alike. And since then, decade after decade, and administration after administration, I've watched immigration funding and support get eliminated by interests from every side, causing much suffering for us all. Every election cycle, one side or the other promises that they will fix our issues if we vote for them. But once elected, they always serve their own interests. The public then asks, why have you not fixed what you said you would? And we get the same exact reply every single time, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans answering us. We tried to, but the other side won't let us. Excuse my vulgarity, but I call bullshit. All of our elected officials down there in Washington, D.C. are within the top 5% of the wealthiest Americans. All of them. Between them, lobbyists bribing them, whispering in their ears, and all the CEOs and shareholders of the corporations that are paying those lobbyists, and the billionaires that own them all. How many of those people do you really think give a one whip about you or I or any of our concerns? 1%? If? None of our elected officials on the left or on the right can ever be believed. They can never be trusted. None of them are concerned with any of us. There are only two concerns down in Washington, D.C., and two concerns only. It's not left or right, it's money and power. And to those ends of increasing in money and power for themselves, they will do whatever they can to keep us Americans chasing our tails and fighting with each other. They got us afraid of our own educational institutions. We're afraid of our social institutions. They got us afraid of our own law enforcement institutions. They got us afraid of our own science and medicine. They bought up all our news organizations and have destroyed our power of the press to hold any of them accountable. Even worse, they use our press and news against us to continue to keep making us afraid of each other. We play right along for them. We just keep staring into our phones looking for answers, only to be fed lie after lie. And now none of us Americans even know how to talk to each other anymore. We can't even smile at each other in the grocery store. We're trying to run each other off the roads. For what? We're all Americans. They have taken away all the common ground between us to such an extent that here we are at last. We're actually debating whether we should let them finally yank the very rug out from under our collective feet by letting them violate our constitutional rights, leaving the whole of the Constitution vulnerable and open to being destroyed entirely. You chip away at a piece of it, the whole structure falls. It's the foundation of our law. It isn't the law, it's the foundation of our law. There are no laws of war above the Constitution. Federal, local, or state have no supremacy over our Constitution whatsoever. The Constitution is our very last piece of common ground as Americans. Now they're trying to take that away from us too, and we're letting them. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Americans have sacrificed and died in defense of our Constitution. Those Americans were told that their sacrifices were necessary because we don't have Sharia law in America, because we don't punish freedom of speech in America, because we all have equal protection under the law in America, because Americans don't allow anyone to weaponize their government against their own people. Those Americans drag themselves through the muck, the slime, the sand, and the blood in defense of our Constitution. And all you're being asked to do is drag a pen across a piece of paper. And it's a paper tiger. It has no teeth. It doesn't really compel you to be doing anything more than you already should be. It is simply an affirmation that states their sacrifice meant something. That we as a community realize that some really big issues that need to be resolved, but we're not going to allow the integrity of our Constitution to be compromised in order to fix them. They must find another way. Our Constitution is not only what protects us, it is what defines us all as Americans. Those that have sacrificed and died for it knew that. If we're not willing to honor their sacrifices by supporting and defending our Constitution as well, then we're not really Americans anymore. And that's the case, then just what the hell are we doing? All I'm trying to do with this effort is the same thing we did with the public laws before the Civil War. Before the Civil War broke out, southern states were deputizing posses as marshals and sending them into the northern states to recapture escaped slaves and just Black people in general. The northern states petitioned the federal government to make them stop, and they were ignored. So communities started making their own laws saying, we're not going to accept that behavior, and we're going to have due process. The first state to do that was Vermont. Town by town and community by community, they went and passed the public laws to keep the federal government from overreach. That is all I'm trying to accomplish. I'm not trying to shit on anybody's campaign or anybody's administration. I'm not trying to be political or partisan. I'm just saying, whoever's in charge in that White House, you can't infringe our constitutional rights to fix these problems. And it isn't just the current administration. I got all the liberals saying, all the Republicans are the one who always cut the funding. Again, bullshit. Clinton administration was one of the biggest deficits to immigration. Biden himself was too. Really, Obama kind of did the same thing. He still upheld due process, but he was rubber stamping 200-300 people at a time through the court system, which more or less amounts to the same thing. And now we have the highest official in the land, our president of the United States, went on national television 3 weeks ago, was asked point blank by a journalist whether he thought he should have to uphold the Constitution, and his answer was, I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna make a point of order here. This is not the stage for political rhetoric. None whatsoever. What are you asking us to do?
To simply make an affirmation like the public laws, like 11 other
That's your request, correct?
municipalities.
And this is the
This is
form,
current request right here?
this resolution?
Yes.
I move that this be tucked aside. It has nothing to do. He's not a resident or a property owner within the town of Pittsburgh. I don't think it's anything that we should or need to discuss.
11
This
other
is
municipalities we
this is
disagree
the
with,
oath
sir.
that we took when we became select board members. I, in my case, Dan Adams, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, and that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof. So help me God. That's the oath that we took. Okay? I did not take the oath that you took when you joined the armed forces, nor did most of the people in the town of Pittsburgh. So you're asking us to speak for the town of Pittsburgh.
Yes. I'm asking you to speak for your community, to just simply say, this is where we draw the
If
line.
someone from the town of Pittsburgh was to come in here and ask that we sign a memorandum or something that we support the Constitution of the United States, I'd sign it in a heartbeat. I'm not going to sign it.
So I can bring a member of Pittsburgh's public to request that.
Not here now, correct?
Pardon me?
No one is here now, correct?
I'm right here.
All right, what's your position?
My position supports everything I just heard him say.
I also
And he
support
thought
that. I took an oath to the Constitution in 1967.
I agree with
I
you, Tom.
served the military.
I
and
agree
it-
with you 100%.
And it irks the hell out of me when you people don't wanna defend the Constitution.
Who says we don't?
No,
want-
no, anybody.
This
I'm
is
not-
the
no, no.
discussion that we're gonna
I
get
just
into,
said-
and it's gonna be endless.
Easy.
Exactly, no, I'm just saying, I truly support the Constitution of the United States. Under any circumstances,
Mhm.
nobody is above the law. That's where I stand.
I need this gentleman in the back row to identify himself, please.
Nicholas Montalvo, 3017 fired over.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Let's clarify the motion.
Yeah, I think what the motion
Is it not to adopt this, or is it to tuck it away?
That
or
we
what is it?
move this aside. And I don't believe it's something that we are should be taking up in its current form.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Was I not asked to speak up as a citizen of this town?
I believe,
To
I
endorse
thought
it.
you had.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just make a point of order? So
Yes.
I did not type up the resolution for the town of Pittsburgh because I was waiting for direction. So the only one you have in front of you is the one the city of Rutland approved. I just want that to be a point of order. I don't have anything for you guys to sign tonight because I did not type anything because I didn't know what direction this was gonna go in.
Just a point of accuracy. I did read the resolution when it was printed in the Rutland Herald. I did know, Peter, at the end of the resolution, and I haven't read the resolution, other than what I saw in the Herald, so I want you're here. So you directed the chief of police to do something in your resolution?
And none of the towns are doing that. They're basically ending with the first paragraph, and that had more to do with other stuff that was going on in the city.
Because you can't.
No.
The state has very strict fair and impartial
And
policing
and that was
policy.
discussed, and I realize that.
Yeah, and so you have no business directing, or these folks have no business directing the police.
The city did their resolution, it was an invitation, it wasn't a demand upon it.
Right, so I'm concerned about that, that's why,
That part. yeah.
that's why I would support, and I'm a Pittsburgh resident, tucking it aside until you understand what it says.
That is the motion.
It doesn't.
Okay, you'll find.
You can wait.
On this board, I don't know, what was it? Excuse me, need something to drink. 2 years ago, group of citizens from Pittsburgh came to us, Second Amendment resolution. And we all stated again that we would defend the Constitution.
That's all.
I don't think that's an issue, and I agree with probably 99% of what you said. I personally don't see the attacks on the Constitution that you do. I guess maybe I'm missing something.
I can provide
But-
sources.
But I would agree with, like I said, 99% of what you said, other than that. If this came through with a resolution to support the Constitution, pretty much solely, I think all of us would probably sign that. The resolution that I read, there's just too many things in it that, not whether I do or don't disagree with them, I don't feel it's the best thing for Pittsburgh. We've got a multi-million-dollar bridge project going on that the feds are paying for. We've got a road project going through town here that the feds are gonna pay for 80-90% of. I really don't think it's in the best interest of the town of Pittsburgh to be, how do I wanna say this politely? poking at the government. I just don't think it's in the best interest of the entire town. That's my opinion. Again, I don't disagree with most of what you said, but I think your resolution, again, if it was to uphold the Constitution, I think we would all sign that. But I think what you have in there is a little beyond what any of us are willing to sign.
If you're going to put it away until another meeting to decide on it, then would you be willing to look at sources that show the infractions?
I don't think we need any background, any political assertions or anything else. If someone was to present a resolution, non-binding resolution, does the select board of the town of Pittsford support the Constitution of the United States and will not pass any ordinance contrary to that? That's all we need to hear.
Yeah.
The political end of it, I'll talk to you anytime. I don't think it's the business of the Board of Selectmen representing the people that live in Pittsford to take that up, the political end of it.
Okay.
And what was brought to the board here a few years ago, I believe, was a request for a statement from the board that they would not pass any ordinance going against the Second Amendment,
All right.
something to that effect, and it was passed. Didn't need any long assertions, any political background or whatsoever. Again, it was a non-binding position. So that's my take on the thing.
Well, and then Bob Harnish brought a similar,
Mhm.
I forget what it was like,
Inclusion.
Declaration of inclusion.
inclusion. And again, it was clearly non-political, non-anything. It was just, again, in support of the Constitution. We're not against the Constitution. It's just.
It should never even be brought to that discussion. to be
Right,
honest with you.
well,
That's
it's- well,
foolishness.
no, and that's part,
Um,
well, and that's part of your point. We shouldn't even be having to have this.
No, we shouldn't even be in front of us right now. I appreciate your passion. Well, a lot of this is also your opinion. And I think you have to realize that opinion is different than reality. I will, if you do come back with any other Pittsford residents for anything else, leave the vulgarity somewhere else. If you want to present us something, that's fine with a resident, but we're not gonna hear that again. Okay, that was pretty disrespectful. I hear you. So that's all I have to say. Okay. Call for a vote. Thank you very much.
Yep, so we have a vote on. So are you asking this be tabled,
Just set
Dan?
aside.
Set aside.
Not to vote on this in its current form, and I think we discussed perhaps a better form to bring it to us.
Okay.
So
So is the motion
to set this aside
Set it
and no
aside.
further discussion.
All in
at this
favor?
time.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
I'm abstaining. Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Oh. The letter of intent, SFY 26 State of Vermont Grants in Aid Program.
So this is your annual letter of intent to participate in the municipal roads grants and aid program. It just really needs your approval and Alicia's signature so that we can be eligible for municipal roads, general permit grants and et cetera. It's an annual thing.
Right.
Whatever.
We'll do this before.
We'll move. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Orders and payroll, so.
Do you want to do,
You want to talk about that?
do we want to do Markel's payment?
That's what I'm saying. Let's
Okay,
talk
sorry.
about that. Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
yes.
So today, late in the day, I had, Otter Creek Engineering get a hold of me. They had just received the third payment request from Markowski's for the Plains Road project, and I gave you a copy of the application. Yeah, it looks like this. It looks like a spreadsheet. So Pat had already finalized the second round of payables when I got this. She actually left for the day already. So I asked Helen if I brought it to your attention as a separate order per se and had you sign this, would you be able to pay this before the next meeting since we don't meet for 2 weeks? Markowski's thought we were meeting next week instead of this week. They're looking, the amount for this payment is 284,411.25. That's after the adjustments for removing the paving, an additional water line issue that we had, and they are still retaining 41,346.05 until after our post-completion walkthrough and any fine details in the punch list taken care of. I know they still have to plant some trees for some homeowners and that kind of thing that were damaged during the process.
What was the addition?
The addition of 2,540.07, I believe that was a water line that they ended up having to replace at the request of Sean and Dave because
Oh,
the
yeah,
the
okay,
pipe had been
that's
kinked. I think you brought it to your attention. It was an ongoing issue for several years at one of the houses
And the 91,000 is to
It-
pull out the.
to pull out the paving.
And they're retaining, we're retaining 41 to 46.
Yeah, we will have not paid that much of it.
One quick question.
Yep.
When is that scheduled to be done?
So paving, Sean, Chad and I are sitting down tomorrow morning to kind of figure out our game plan.
So there's no date, right?
We don't have a
Okay,
date yet.
that's all I need to know.
We're working on trying to figure out the funding and the
Just
timing so that,
Thursday.
working on logistics.
Was it 91,000 even?
You have an inspection of this tomorrow, their work, or?
No.
Right up, right?
It should be, I believe they want early next week. They're trying to coordinate between Markowski, Sean and the Otter Creek Engineering to all be there.
But we have the retained.
We have the retainage anyways of 41,346. Still,
And they're asking us to have Helen go ahead and
so
process this payment.
yeah, because we missed the deadline for the payables. So in order for you to pay this, I would need you to for this to be paid before our June 7th meeting. I would need you to sign this saying, yes, it's okay to pay.
Does it need a motion?
Well,
No, it's
No,
part
no,
of the
just-
because there's no order amount. But
I stopped putting order dollar amounts on here because
for this
every time,
instance,
for these instances, and every time I put an order, we had to do a change on the agenda because
Yeah.
come Wednesday, we'd have,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So,
I just wanted to bring it to your attention that
Yeah.
I would like you to sign this and this is why.
Okay, so any questions on the orders?
No,
No. Okay,
It was
we'll sign those. That ends that part of the meeting, so
gave you a copy of
executive
that.
session.
yes, I have that one.
So I need a motion.
You have liquor board first.
VSA.
No, wait, you
You
got
have liquor board
first.
first.
Oh, we got oh, that's right, getting late.
Yep.
Okay, so I will recess select board, open as liquor board.
So do you want me to tell you what it's for?
Yes,
So it's for Pittsburgh Village Farm. It's for June 14th for Joe Kamuta's celebration of life.
She's not here.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. I'm trying to do two things at once. And they would like to have it's a cider company. Mount Holly Cider LLC there to be able to, they are going to be at Kamuta's parking lot, which is surrounded by Arch Street to the east of Elm Street on the west, and to the south is Kamuta's building. They're going to be there as part of the celebration of life and just need the liquor permit for
Can I
that.
get a motion?
The motion is on for this, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Oh.
this paper I'm just gonna send around, it has the liquor thing attached to it, so that if you guys could just sign it, so Helen has it, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
So we will
that's coming to the packet.
close out as the liquor board, reopen as the select board. And I need a motion to go into executive session. In accordance with 1 VSA 313A, where premature general knowledge would clearly place municipality or person involved at a substantial disadvantage to discuss the appointment, employment, or evaluation of a public officer or employee. provided that public body must make the final hiring or appointment decision and explain its
At your
reasons
liquor
for
board, you have to
decision
sign it.
in open meeting, 1 VSA 313A3, include the interim town manager. Need a motion for that.
Silence. This is it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So that concludes the open meeting.
When you're done signing, then we can close it.
Oh, and then thrown into
That's, have a better joint. Sure you have.
We'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Where's my stool?
Will you send me this stuff? Will you send me this? Preferably before like the day of
Few announcements like that.
late. Does Rich doesn't need to stay, does he?
Nope, Rich is good.
Rich, you're all set. Have a good night.
I'll see you in the
Thank
morning.
you. Yep, I'll be there.
Thank you.
Far apart, I know it.